Welcome to the Once and Future Authors podcast. I'm Stephanie, and I am beyond thrilled to be joined by author, publisher, podcaster, and influencer Zibby Owens. I feel like a regular fangirl here today. Zibby is the host of the winning podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. And as a mom, I totally get that. She is also a fabulous author. We've got a bunch of books to talk about today. Her memoir, Bookends, a memoir of love, loss, and literature, Princess Charming, and most recently, Moms Don't Have Time to, her quarantine anthology. In addition to all of these things, she's also a publisher and CEO of Zibby Books. And I just found out recently on the board of the public library. So Zibby, you do like a little bit of everything. And I am so excited to have you today. Welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Oh, thrilled. And I love, before we even get started on the books, love the colored bookshelf in the background. You did that. I keep hearing about people wanting to do it.
I did it. It's this whole room is covered in books, and
Oh my
the back wall is color coordinated.
I love that. You have to have a lot of books to be able to do that.
Yes.
That's for sure. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm tempted now. I keep seeing it on like Pinterest. You're the first one I've seen in person. You wear a lot of hats. You know, you're known now, well, now as an author, but also an influencer and a podcaster and so many other things, a publisher. Do you have a favorite title?
Mom.
I knew you were going to say that, and I almost said, besides mom.
Yeah. Do I have a favorite title? Sometimes when I meet people, I'm like I'm like a very literary focused person. I don't have like a good I don't have a good title right now. I mean, most of all, I'm a reader. That's really what I am. I'm a reader first and foremost, and a book lover, and that's what has spawned everything else that's come from that.
I love that. I love that because I mean, how did it feel to be named like the most influential book person in New York? I mean, is that a little scary?
I could not believe that. That was back in 2019, and I was literally walking down Lexington Avenue. I had just dropped one of my four kids off at school, and an author friend, was like, "Oh my gosh, did you see this article?" And I clicked on it on my phone, and I just like stopped as, close to where the subway was getting out, people all around me, standing there, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, look at this headline." I know, and it's so funny. I also just like last week lit talent awards were like, you won our whole like influencer of the year award, where can we send you payment? And I was like, oh my god, this is so crazy. So yeah, it's really fun and exciting, and totally not why I started any of this. It's such a nice perk that this is all coming and that all my hard work is being seen and recognized. But it's all a truly a passion and labor of love. So it's really wonderful.
I do love that you term yourself a reader first. That's really awesome. When you get all those accolades, do you feel like I better make sure I have a book on the subway because people will see me or such?
No, people don't. I mean, no, I am pretty anonymous in most circles unless I go to a book event or something. It was so funny. I went with my husband to a cocktail party during Thriller Fest, and normally, we come and go, and then we went into this one restaurant, and everyone's like, "Zibby!" I was like, and then we left, and he just looked at me. He was like, "What was that?" It's pretty funny.
Usually you get to fly below the radar, and
Yeah, of course.
once in a while that New York fame hits you. I wanted to ask, starting first, about your memoir Bookends. I know it was a huge journey, and what a heart-wrenching memoir. Your journey though to this book started long before the story that is pivotal. Uh, I'd read that you wanted to write memoir way back. You were studying some of the top memoirists. I do have to ask you, since your story has such a focal point, And when I think back to when you were thinking about writing memoir, none of that had actually happened yet. I'm just curious for all memoirists out there, what if you could bring me back to when you were reading, other memoirists and how to, shall we say, did you know what it was going to be about? Did you know that your life had not yet had that moment, or how does somebody approach memoir without, that moment, that pivotal historical thing, shall we say?
Well, I didn't want to write a memoir until after my best friend died on 9/11. And I was at business school at the time, and I had so much to say about it. I was trying to process that loss. I couldn't seem to move on from that at the time. And prior to that, I had written personal essays. I love writing personal essays. I just wrote one yesterday about Thanksgiving and how I'm thankful I don't have small children anymore. And then I was like, can I even say that? My youngest is now almost 8, and it's just like a whole different ballgame. And anyway, so writing personal essays has always been really easy and fun for me, and my go-to sort of genre. But it wasn't until this post grad school time where I decided to take a year off to write a book that I really wanted to write a memoir. And it wasn't so much a retrospective of my life, right? It was about a specific
Right.
experience and what it was like sort of going back to New York City, and the contrast between my life as everything had fallen apart, and then the hard charging MBA life where everyone was like going out and drinking and networking and making connections. And I was like, wait, how can I possibly be living in these two different universes at the same time? So, and then I had lost another 4 people close to me in the next year. So I think I was just a mess and was like, I have to write about this. And uh, I thought that people would be interested because people were interested in 9/11, and I didn't know anybody. You knew somebody, and I would write all about it for the school newspaper. And I got so much great feedback for that, just so that people could understand it on the inside, that it wasn't just some theoretical thing. So that's how I started. That's how I wrote the first memoir. So I did have a perspective on it, and then I actually decided not to try to sell it as a memoir after I wrote it, uh, to protect some, not protect, but it was too personal. I didn't want to write about the individual people. I wanted to write about the experience at large, and so I rewrote it as a novel and tried to sell it as a novel, which did not sell. So there you go.
I love that there were, like, I mean, I hate to call them failures, but we'll just say bumps along
Many failures,
the way.
many failures. You can say it. There were many.
That is so heartwarming for everybody else who has, we love hearing stories about Stephen King putting that nail up in his attic where he put every single rejection letter, because when you get your first, you think, do I have to stop? Is this the end? So hearing that Bookends had, so many years before, people look at it and say, oh, look at her. She's got, 2,000 5-star reviews and it's selling like hotcakes and there's seals all over it. Didn't happen like this.
No, it was such a long journey. I really didn't think it was going to sell, and I got very close, and then publishers would say no, and it was devastating. I was really invested. I wanted this so badly. I just so badly. I just had to get this done. It was my life goal, and I couldn't do it. And it was very discouraging, but it didn't make me give up. After I licked my wounds each time, then I just was like, okay, let me go at it a different way. I have to get this story out. And, not that I'm any sort of Stephen King, but with my younger daughter, she has a whiteboard in her room. And when I sent Bookends out, I wrote like 50 publishers because I was like, we are sending this far and wide. Someone has to buy this. This was like my 20th time. No, not really. My third time submitting it. And I wrote all the publisher names on her whiteboard. And as everyone would reject, I would just like cross it out. I would just like erase it off the whiteboard. And then finally it sold.
What a huge lesson that you put that in your daughter's room on her whiteboard, though. That's such a lesson for her in resilience. and tenacity, and we're just going to keep going. We're going to, the first one, the second one, the third one. I mean, I think that that's you incorporate being a mom so much in what you do, but that's huge what you do as far as example.
I do. Yeah, I definitely model rejection and resilience quite a bit. It was even a couple of years ago, my podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books, was nominated for a Webby Award.
Mhm.
And I was determined to win the People's Choice Award. I was like, this is the most amazing thing. I can't believe they picked it. And I did like such an aggressive campaign. I was like, I would get coffee and like try to get the barista. I was like, it's a People's Choice. Will you just vote for my podcast? And the kids did videos with me and we did all sorts of things. And I lost. I still lost. And they were like, oh no, But then 2 years later, I won. And they were like, oh my gosh. So yes, there are
So,
plenty of opportunities to
so
model
the
that.
year you won, you didn't campaign as much as the year you lost?
Yeah, well, I won. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, actually, it's right here. Uh, yeah, I guess it was the People's Voice Award. But yeah,
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's a pretty one. Looks like a slinky.
yeah, it was the 2021 People's Voice Award. Uh, yeah, best live podcast recording. So
Very
Webby
cool.
Awards. Yeah, it took a while. Took a
Yeah.
while, but I did it.
You did it. You did it. Well, what other lessons do you think your kids are getting from all this besides resilience, tenacity? What are other ones that are important to you for you to pass on?
Oh,
And
that's a great question. I think creativity. We're always coming up with stories, the importance of story. They're really into writing now too, which is so great. And how we can all connect. They have such a different approach to books than I did growing up. I mean, I was a voracious reader and all that, but everything they read that they love, they're like, well, can we talk to this author? So it's totally different, this accessibility they have to authors and books. And um, yeah, I just love it. I love how they're getting into writing themselves. It's really, really wonderful.
That's amazing. Now, is that in part where Princess Charming came in? Tell me.
Yes.
That's what I figured.
This project fell in my lap, actually. A friend, not even a friend, a woman who had been on my podcast who became my friend, her friend was moving to Flamingo Books at Penguin Random House and said to me, would you have any interest in writing a children's book? And I said, well, yes, of course, because I had written several which hadn't sold. I know this keeps getting old, but of course I had been interested. And she was like, well, here's a picture of a character. Her name's Princess Charming. What would you make the story about? What would you do? And I was like, do you want to take a stab at it? And I was like, sure. So 2 minutes later, I was like, okay, well, here's what I would do. And she loved it and she bought it. And that was it. So the kids loved being a part of that project. They wrote it with me. It was a 2-book deal actually. And so they wrote the second one with me. In fact, it was my daughter's idea, the whole topic of the second book. We'll see if that ever comes out. And yeah, they're just so a part of it. They helped me with the marketing of it. They did all the book events. I made each of my New York City book events for that book with their classes. So each of them got a party basically around the book. So yeah, they're and those are just my 2 younger kids, but they're all really involved.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. I'm guessing that they weren't nearly as involved in your anthology, quarantine anthology. Moms don't have time to. How did that go?
Well, this is actually not my most recent. It's actually the oldest one. That's from
Oh,
February of 2021. And
okay.
as you can see, 2 of my kids are actually on the cover with me, although
Yeah.
their faces are hidden. This, I didn't even mean to be an anthology. This came out of a bunch of essays that during the pandemic I released with the help of several editors who I had been working with. I released them on my website keep people entertained and connected during the pandemic. And after we did that for the whole summer of 2020, I went back and copied and pasted them all and put them in one document. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's a book. It's long enough to be a book. And so I had contracts with every single author. So I took the whole package and sold it right away. And it came out a couple months later.
Wow. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, it sounds a lot easier than a lot of other people who do anthologies and they end up hunting people down like, you owe me a story or something.
Well, when I sold that, while that was being, in the queue for being published, I was like, well, I didn't mean for that to be an anthology, so let me do one on purpose. So then I had a follow-up to that called Moms Don't Have Time to Have Kids. And in that one, I knew it was an anthology and we were hunting people down, and that came out 6 months later.
Right, right. No, I love that title. Moms don't have time to have kids. Sometimes I feel that way, and I only have 3 or 4, so I
There's
fully.
no only.
Even if it was one, somehow that child fills the space, doesn't
Yes.
it? Oh, so that one is actually older. I wasn't even realizing that. So what's next on your agenda then?
What's next? Well, I started a publishing company called Zibby Books, and our books start coming out in February 7th, 2023. So I'm super focused on that. Um, and I will tell you this now, but I'm announcing it publicly in like 2 hours. But I'm opening a bookstore, so I'm really excited for that. Don't tell anybody. It's in Santa Monica, California. So it's called Zibby's Bookshop, and I'm really, really excited.
Oh,
So that is another big thing.
oh my gosh, that's brave. That might be braver than the podcast, the publishing company, and everything else.
And then we're growing Zibby Mag, which is the magazine. And uh, yeah, it's all just so much fun. I mean, I had two of my teammates spent the weekend with me in LA, and we were up till midnight standing in my kitchen, coming up with all these like innovative ways to buy books for the store and showcase them. And I mean, it's just so fun. It's like a dream come true. None of it feels like work.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's go back to Zibby Books for a moment. I understand you are taking 12 books per year for Zibby
Yes.
Books. Was that because you're releasing one per month, or is there another
Yes.
reason for the 12? Okay.
One per month. We wanted to structure it like a year of reading. So if you were to only read these 12, which of course you're not going to, and that's fine. And I promote so many books. I love books. I would never think people would only read ours. But if you were going to read ours, they're in an order so that it whets your appetite and it's not too many of the same type of book.
Oh,
It's a memoir and fiction, but like more of a thriller will be followed by more of a beach read, will be followed by like a literary memoir, followed by. So we really are trying to provide everything you would need in a year of reading.
oh, fantastic. I didn't realize there was a whole plan and arc. Or is this going to give life then to all of the Libby book clubs? The Zibby book
Zibby Book
all
Club. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I do have a virtual book club that I've run since the pandemic, and we meet monthly. But yeah, I'm excited to create community around these books. We also are starting a bunch of Zibby classes. We have 17 Zibby classes that are launching in January of 2023.
Oh my
And
God.
then we have two retreats in March and April, one in the Hamptons and one in Charleston. And yeah, there's just a lot.
Are the retreats for writers or readers?
Both.
Both. Fantastic. So in early 2023, the releases, the rolling out of the Zibby books, the bookstore is opening in 2023.
Yes.
2 retreats,
Yes.
17 classes.
Yes.
Any other titles that you're penning right now that you'll be releasing?
I'm supposed to be writing a novel.
And the second children's book.
Second children's book, I bet that won't come out for another couple of years. But yes, I'm supposed to be writing a novel. We'll see what happens.
So
I really don't have the bandwidth to do that, to be honest. So I'm trying to figure out what to do. I've written like 70 pages. So I'm debating just keeping it as like a novella or something. But
So the real question here is time management, prioritization, and stress. So, what are your secrets?
I have an amazing team, and I spend a lot of time on the hiring and management of my team. I love my team so much. And there are 18 of us right now, and we all do a lot of things. And they're like A plus team members. So uh, that's the biggest secret. I mean, it's not a secret. Like I'm not doing this by myself. I couldn't. So and they all are really passionate about books and everything we're doing. So we're having lots of fun. We have a really tight community and team bond. It's not professional. It feels very personal, and we're having a great time. We laugh a lot. We work really hard, but it's all in service of something that we absolutely love. In terms of stress, right now, I was actually just saying to my husband, I'm like, I haven't been as I've been really calm the last couple weeks. I wonder why. I don't know. So even though, and then he was saying, I have a new assistant who, not like a real assistant. I mean, I always have a smart young girl sort of helping me, and my last two assistants are now basically like running this whole business. But, they're like, oh, is it easier? Do you have less work, or do you have more time now that you have this new? And I was like, no, I work all the time still. It's like that's never going to stop. It's just that I have more bandwidth to be more creative and do the things that are really important for me to be doing versus the things that anyone can be doing. So, um, yeah, I work all the time, but I love it. I mean, how can it be work? It's like reading for acquisition and connecting with authors. And I mean, it's all just so fun. It's just so fun. I don't even know how else to say it.
Oh,
So the biggest stress for me is my inbox. So I've been trying to manage that better and put more systems in place for being able to respond, not lose messages, stay on top of things. And I'm trying to get better at saying no to things. For a long time, I've been like, yes, 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 I'll do whatever. But I do have to get a little more selective and protect my time a little more. And again, my main focus is my kids still. So uh, picking them up, dropping them off, being there for everything, and all of that.
wow. Well, I'm so glad you said that your inbox is one of your weak spots. I think the whole world has a weak spot with their inbox. That's for sure. Now, you're all over the place geographically. New York, bookstore in California. Is that all new since lockdown? How do you think this pandemic has affected the way you're running your business and how people are living their lives?
Um, well, during the pandemic, obviously we were all remote, and I had a much smaller team back then because I didn't even decide to do the publishing company until during the pandemic. So anyway, it started very small. There's been really explosive growth lately. But in terms of my team, we're now in person. We used to be remote, and since we've moved in person, things are just, oh my gosh, so much better. Makes a huge difference. Not everybody every day, and we do have some employees who are remote or team members or whatever, but we still try to get together. Uh, so I think it's important to be in person. And we went on this big retreat with the entire team and all of our authors. And that just made all the difference for the Zibby Books team, just so they could see what we were doing. I think sometimes in book publishing, authors get really nervous. And I say this as an author because I was also getting very nervous. Like, what is my publisher doing and what is going on? And do they have it covered? And will I just be like, and I think the fact that we brought everyone together, everyone's like, what are you doing? Like, why do this? And I'm like, trust me, it's going to be worth it. And it was so worth it. So sometimes there's just this, it's an intangible. You can't say it's gonna, there's any, just bringing people together is really important. But I will say I've always loved to travel. I lived in LA after college for a couple of years. And I spent a lot of college going back and forth to LA because I was dating someone out there. So it's like I'm doing the same thing now, 20 plus years later, 25 years later. I just love LA. I love I just love it there. But I also love it here in New York. So I think the combination of the energy of both places is really important to me. And I've loved going all over the country for bookends and meeting people in all these different places, exploring different cities like Nashville and Charleston and just Boston, all these places that I'm coming to as an author. It's really neat.
You are a great advertisement for why we should get out and go back to meeting people in person. Absolutely. I know a lot of people who are like, hey, we've been doing remote for years now. We'll just stay in our yoga pants and never go out and see people again. And you make such a great point for there's nothing quite like that personal touch.
Yeah. Group dynamics, connection. It makes everything better, right? It just makes everything happier and easier if you have the right people,
Oh,
and that takes time, and that
absolutely
takes time too. That takes time too.
Absolutely. But I love that your business has been exploding, especially since you came back to having your group together. So many people are looking at it saying, "Oh, we're much more productive when, our productivity is higher because we're not commuting and this and that." And you're kind of saying the opposite, like your productivity and your creativity and the explosion in growth has been yes, growing, but now we're together and we get everybody on a retreat and we're blowing the roof off.
Yeah. I mean, there are some people on my team who feel that way, and they're like, I am more productive at home, and I see that. I mean, I am more productive on the days that we're not all together.
Oh, yes,
I
well,
really am. I mean, on the days that we're all together, like on particularly Wednesdays, we all get like I have to work all night to get through my emails. But I've gained something so much more important. And we've made decisions quickly, and it saves time in the long run, even though I guess it's the question is what if you're trying to be more productive, what is it that you're producing? What is the end product? Is it actually the emails or is it something more than that?
yeah. Ooh, I love that. You're so right. Because we just get stuck, don't we? We just get stuck with what's right in front of us and not the horizon. And we can see the horizon much better when we're outdoors with a whole lot of, with our team.
Yeah.
So, time to get back to work with our teams. So, Santa Monica, a new place opening, a novel on the way,
Maybe.
maybe,
We'll see. We'll see.
maybe, but certainly starting in early 2023, we've got the release of the Zibby Books, one per month. So, for all readers out there and for any book clubs that are looking for a little organization, that's like built in organization because
Yes.
you've already picked the whole flow. You don't have to sit there and say, well, we did one of these last month. What should we do next month? You've taken all of that work right out of their hands.
That's true. Actually, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll do something. If your book club reads all 12 of our books, you get some special prize or something.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. So, are we looking forward to the, I don't know, the Zibby Owens theme park next? I can
I
imagine.
have not thought about a theme park. I did think about an airline at one point.
So you went airline and I went theme parks.
Yeah, I'm more like airline, hotel. I'd rather do like hospitality than uh, theme park. But
Okay. Well, I can
I don't think those are coming. I am really happy focusing on what I have on my plate, and the next thing just always sort of presents itself when the time is right.
I mean, I could certainly see the Zibby Owens retreat center up in like overlooking Lake Tahoe or something like that,
Ooh,
lined with beautiful books, and maybe the classes are ongoing, like
ooh,
retreat.
like kind of like Yado, you mean?
Yeah.
Almost like an author retreat. Ooh, okay, that's interesting.
Okay.
I hadn't thought about that.
I'll buy my ticket on Zibby Airlines to fly out there for.
I, I I just wanted there to be the airline would just be like all books, the books in every seat, books on cards, trading books, seated buying books, the fiction section of the airplane, the non I don't know.
Oh, I do like you just mentioned it. How about book trading cards, like
Oh
Pokemon
yeah. Yeah. We are deep in the Pokemon stage
I
here.
am sure you are. So book trading cards, and there's like, I don't know, a QR code on the back for you to,
Yeah.
read the book. I don't know. The sky's the limit with you. That's all I could say. Well, I'm super excited about all of your projects, and I can't thank you enough for joining me here. What an inspiration to writers, to readers, and to dreamers.
Oh, thank you.
So much, and I won't say good luck with all those projects because I know they're going to be amazing. I just can't wait to visit in person.
Thank you.
Thanks.